Hello and welcome to another episode of Elevate, a DBNC leadership podcast where we have conversations with non-traditional and diverse leaders. Enjoy! My name is Christian Fox, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Rachel Luke. Rachel, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you for coming in. For those that don't know you, what's your spiel? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am currently the instructional coordinator for African Black Afro-Caribbean student success at the Peel District School Board. Prior to that, I taught at a high school in Peel for 20 years. And I was very honored to receive the Prime Minister's Award for Teaching Excellence. In 2020, I received the award for the Regional Award for Achievement. And in 2021, I received the National Award for Teaching Excellence.
That's impressive.
Thank you.
So when you found out that you were getting that award, what went through your head?
I was so the first time it's so exciting. I didn't quite know what to say. I was really surprised, pleasantly surprised, and it felt very rewarding after all the work that I have put in. But I was most grateful to my colleague and students who nominated me, because it's a very involved process for that nomination. And so I just felt I had extreme gratitude for the people that took the time to, first of all, think of me and then to go through the process of nominating me.
Oh, that's amazing. And so just for that process, when you got nominated, did you know about that? Or did things happen kind of behind the scenes?
So the first year was behind the scenes. The second year I was in the know. Yeah, and it was interesting because, of course, they didn't know everything that I was doing, so they wanted to ask me to make sure that they had put everything in, and so they kept saying, "We didn't know you did this, miss," and "We didn't know you did that." So it was a very special moment, and just to be able to go to Ottawa. What was really kind is because I got the award during COVID. The cohort with me really weren't able to go to Ottawa. So they let us go in the year that the 2022 recipients received their award. So we all received it together. So it was a very special time. We drove down to Ottawa. I flew, my parents drove down, and my friends and family were there. And to receive the award from the Prime Minister and shake his hand was a special moment.
Ah, that's
Definitely
excellent.
A special
That's
moment.
very, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now I kind of want to shift gears and move into a more serious conversation.
Sure.
Just because it is Black History Month. That's obviously there's so much to unpack there. So I wanted just to start off by asking, how would you define Black leadership given today's historical and political climate?
So I think we definitely need strong Black role models and Black leaders in our society today. We need to have inspirational role models that everyone can look up to, and I think young people in particular can look up to, and we need to have a lot more, I think, Black leaders in politics, because they can ensure that Black voices and perspectives and issues and experiences are heard and considered in decision-making processes. I think a major issue that we have in our community is that we don't have a lot of access. So though people say there's opportunity, often, yes, there's opportunity, but how easy is it to really gain access? And so I think it's critical for us to have Black leaders in positions of power where they can affect change and they can bring issues that have to do with, I'd say, our community and many communities, but our community in particular, to the fore. I also think that we need to have Black leaders who can advocate for us and just look out for the well-being of many in the Black community. We saw during COVID the tremendous disparities between many communities, and in particular the Black community. And so, if we have people in positions of power, they can affect change, and we may not see those disparities so glaringly in the future.
Yeah, no, I think that's so true that, again, as you said, opportunity is out there, but it's not necessarily always easy. So what do you think might be one of the first steps that we can take or that should be taken for it to become easier for Black leaders to emerge?
So I think there needs to be a lot more mentorship of Black leaders, people who are interested in getting into leadership positions. There needs to be mentorship and just opportunities given, right? A lot of our young people don't know or understand the political system. So they need to understand how it functions and how you can move forward in those types of roles. People who are in positions of power right now need to be looking out for others who maybe don't look like them and taking them under their wing and tutoring them and mentoring them and supporting them so that they can move into those positions where they can truly affect change. I think we at grassroots, yes, you can make an impact and you can help your community, but really you have to be at the table. To affect policies and to make true change, you have to have a seat at the table. And we don't have enough people that are racialized at seats at the table, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. Like mentorship, that's a great solution, and it's a great step because, yeah, as you said, like a lot of people don't understand the political system. I learned about the political system. I understood it for a long time. Now I have to go back and okay, there's certain things I'm not understanding. And it's just a whole different world when you're in politics.
That's
that
right.
I feel like, yeah, if you had someone that could mentor people, racialized leaders who in how politics work so that they can actually come forward, have a seat at the table and, as you say, impact change.
Yeah, and not just in politics too. I mean, in healthcare, in education, you name it. You have to have different faces and different voices. Right?
Yeah, no, that's so true.
Yeah.
Now, talking about leadership and looking at it from leaders who are racialized, what do you think some of the barriers are and some of the unique challenges of being in a leadership position?
Got it. Well, I can speak from my own experiences, and I will have to say as a Black female, they're definitely not unique because any other Black females I've spoken to have probably had many of the same issues. So definitely, I think racist systemic barriers have been an issue, and I think that those barriers hinder our ability to really affect meaningful change. The barriers they're insidious, and they're sometimes very difficult to see and recognize, but they're there. So it makes it very difficult to affect change. I think tokenism is a huge one. Mm-hmm. When you are seen as a token, it takes away from your credibility and your influence. And I'll just give an example. I was talking before about the Prime Minister's Award, and every single news station that contacted me, the newspapers, television stations that contacted me, the spin for the article was always, as a Black teacher winning this award, or how does it feel as a Black teacher? And that became the story, which was actually very hurtful to me. Because it wasn't just, this is a teacher that won this prestigious award. The Black piece had to come into it. So I was how do you think that the Black students felt with you? And I said the same that the white students felt, about me winning this award. So I just find that often when you become a token, it becomes really, really difficult. And with tokenism as well, you're often expected to represent the entire Black community, and that's problematic. I think everyone's probably heard the TED Talk by Chimamanda, where she talks about the dangers of a single story. We all have different stories, and one of the things I've struggled with as a leader is people say, well, you made it, so everyone else should be able to make it too, and that's not fair. Right, because I am a person who had a lot of supports. I'm a Christian. I had God with me. I had my faith. I'm very strong in my faith. I've had a lot of opportunities that maybe a lot of other Blacks haven't had, and so my experience cannot be comparable to others. So I find that really difficult to always be the sort of the token that's well, you did it, so what's the issue? Everyone else should be able to too.
Yeah, that's a great point that you're making about being a token, and just the fact that every news agency is like, hey, how we want to talk to you, but as a black leader or as a Black teacher.
That's right.
Now, when you had those conversations, were you able to say to tell them, what, I appreciate you contacting me, but don't spin it this way, or
I did. So initially I didn't. The first few I thought, okay. And I kind of went with it. But then gradually I got to the point where I just said, I think I feel exactly the same as a white teacher winning this award, So I think they got the message. And then finally, the last few that contacted me, I just said, I'm not interested. I don't see the point of that. I don't want to be treated as a token. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And I'm glad that you were able to tell them, what, I don't want to be treated like that. Because often I feel like, again, if you were a Black leader, everything becomes as a Black leader, Black leader.
That's right. That's
and
right.
then they expect you to know, well, what is the Black community thing?
That's
As
correct.
if you know everything about the Black
Exactly.
community.
Exactly. And that's dangerous, right?
yeah,
We can't be speaking on
exactly.
behalf of everyone. All of our experiences are different. When you talk about the African diaspora, it is so diverse. So one person cannot be the voice.
Right, exactly. So again, continuing on with its theme, who are some Black leaders that you know about that you think, should be recognized more, that people just don't know
Know
about?
about them. So there's a lot of people, historically, that I think people should know about, but I want to talk about some people who are presently doing a lot of work. Afua Cooper. She is a historian, author, and a poet. She's done a lot of work with Black Canadian history and culture and research, and she's really tried to highlight overlooked contributions of Black Canadians who have done a tremendous amount of work in Canadian society, and they've never been recognized or seen or read about or heard about. And so I really respect that. And she's done a lot of work in this area. So Afua Cooper would be one person. Wes Hall, who is a businessman and entrepreneur. You probably heard about him on Dragon's Den. His story is so amazing. He really was a rags to riches story. And what I love about him is that he always gives back to the community. So he started the Black North Initiative, where he is, it's an organization which works to combat racism in business. And he is right now a major player on Bay Street. And I think his company is one of the fifth richest business organization on Bay Street today. So, and I love this idea of always giving back, and he really believes in that strongly. So I respect him. Nadine Spencer is a visionary entrepreneur and CEO at the Black Business and Professionals Association, another phenomenal force in our community. She hosts the Harry Jerome Awards every year. She does many scholarships for youth, and she supports other Black entrepreneurs in Ontario. There are so many. It's hard to narrow it down. Do you want more? But yeah, sure. Another
definitely.
one that I think a lot of people don't know about is Alan Amtage, who is a Bayesian Canadian computer scientist, and he actually created the first pre-web internet search engine, and nobody ever talks about him.
Right, I've never heard about that.
Right?
Yeah,
So
that's huge.
there are so many Black inventors that did amazing things. The first taxi cab was was Thornton and Lucy Blackburn, who had escaped slavery and came to Canada, and they created the first taxi cab. Like, we talk about Uber and all these other, but nobody knows about them. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
People don't know that we had cowboys. John Ware in Canada. So I think we have to do a lot more research and promotion of the people that have made tremendous inroads and accomplishments and contributions to Canadian society.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, because I think, especially during Black History Month, we talk about the same people all the time.
That's
It's
right.
those people are important, but you mentioned all these people who I've never heard about,
Right.
and it's that's a problem. So we definitely need to try and change that.
Agreed.
So thinking about that, and about, we talk about some of the Black leaders that we don't know about. How do you think the importance of Black History Month has changed and evolved?
So I think initially, that it started with Carter G. Woodson Carter G. Woodson in the United States, and then of course Jean Augustine played a tremendous role in having it acknowledged here in Canada. I think initially it was a little bit more symbolic, but now, I'm in education, so now it's huge. Like Black History Month, we have all kinds of events that we organize and run. We've really, tried to embed it into our curriculum. I was driving the other day and I saw, Black History Month on the bus, the little sign on the bus. I still think sometimes it's a bit performative, but at least it's out there and people know about it. So I think our education has definitely evolved. There's a lot of celebrations of Black culture, of the African diaspora, and those things are very, very important. So I think we've come a long way. I'm hoping for the day where we don't have to have a month to celebrate. Because really that should be the goal. The goal is that we shouldn't have to have a Black History Month, that it is Black contributions and heritage and culture is celebrated in all ways, all the time, in every subject area, in media, It shouldn't just have to be during the shortest month of the year.
Right. So how do you think we can get to that point where we're not just, it's not just Black History Month, it's all the time, as you say?
I think then we have to stop being performative, and we need to decide that we are actually going to acknowledge and we are going to celebrate all cultures, and we are going to effectively and smoothly integrate it into curriculum so that it doesn't just become, well, it's February, so now let's talk about this. But it's actually seamlessly woven into all of our curriculum areas, in the media, on television, in movies. It's all the time, right? And it's not tokenism, and the stories are more diverse. I think in everything, and just even in our businesses, supporting Black businesses. I think when we really embrace different cultures and acknowledge the contributions that they've made to this country called Canada, we'll have evolved to where we need to be.
Yeah.
We don't need to have a month.
Yeah, I think you're so right, because I think if we can get past because I think like the problem I always see with Black History Month is we talk about it, we celebrate it, but then as soon as we're in March, we forget about it, and then we're back to not really acknowledging Black contributions.
Right.
And even TV. As I said before, I said off air, just for people watching, that I'm a big TV buff, and shows are getting better, but we still have a long way to go, I think. But it is interesting seeing the evolution and how Black characters are written, and how they're more integrated in the plot, and they're not just, they're there because, and like their story is about them being Black. It's just, they're doing something else, but it's not the focus. And I think if we keep building towards that, and as you say, even businesses, I don't think we talk a lot about, about Black-owned businesses. So that's a huge thing. Yeah. So
very much
definitely huge. Now, I know we've been jumping around. I kind of wanted to go back because I realized there was an important question I wanted to ask about Black leaders. Actually, this is sort of a two-part question. One, what advice would you give Black leaders who are trying to either get a leadership role and try and become more of a leader, or those who are already in leadership roles?
I think you need to have a support network. A lot of times, equity work, advocacy work is very, very challenging. It leads to extreme burnout and fatigue. And so it's very important to have a network of support around you. So that's one piece of advice I would definitely give. I think also making sure that you have mentorship. So you know what you're doing, and you know how to navigate spaces. That's really important, because sometimes we think we understand certain situations or spaces, but we sometimes realize after that we don't. So you need to know how to navigate the spaces that you're in, and be knowledgeable about all the different pieces that might be involved. Other things for people for young people going into leadership, mentorship is huge, and support systems. Those would be the two that I would recommend. And then work collaboratively with other people, other marginalized communities. I don't like that word marginalized, it bothers me, but like other communities that have been underserved, I think it's important to work together in unity, because when you have more of a community, it takes more of the pressure off of the few.
Right. I think that makes a lot of sense, and this actually leads into the second part of the question, which is the flip side.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to those who aren't necessarily racialized themselves, but they want to be able to support a racialized leader who's come into the organization, or they know someone who is looking for more of a leadership role?
Great. I love this question. I think it's really important for allies. And I think allies is another term that I struggle with sometimes. I think you need to be a co-conspirator, an advocate. I think they need to educate themselves. So you need to understand what's happening in particular communities. I was doing a professional learning with some teacher librarians recently, and I was saying to them, it's all well and good to buy these books about Blackness, about Black hair, and different Black stories, but are you reading the books? Because the students that are reading them, that's great. They already know the story. They already know the challenges that they face. We need you to understand it. You need to be reading those books, right? So education is key. And another piece that I would like to share is avoid being defensive. I think when you're an ally, it's very quick. Sometimes they're quick to be defensive. I think it's really important not to be judgmental and defensive, and to avoid suggesting that their experiences align with the experiences of those who have been underserved, because often they're really not comparable. So that's another piece of advice that I would give. I think it's really important for them to be open, to learn from the lived experiences of those who have been underserved. And to use their privilege and to amplify other voices. Take people under your wing. If you are in a position of power, help others get to that spot. Mentor, support, provide leadership. I think that's what you can do. Like, let us be protected by your privilege sometimes. And I think they need to be upstanders. They need to speak out when they see and hear injustices. They need to, or discrimination or microaggressions. Like, it's really hard for me when people say I'm an ally, but then they wait for me to do the fighting and then come after and say, oh, I really agree with what you did, and it was really good that you stood up. I don't need you to do that for me. I'm always going to do that, but I need you to stand up, not come to me after and tell me, I really agreed with what you had to say. I need you to be the one saying. So that would be my advice for people who want to support. Find the ways that you can support through money, through mentorship, using your privilege.
Yeah, those are all really good points. I think like being non-judgmental, I think that's huge. I like that point that you made about not just supporting someone when they've already done some of the fighting, but actually do it yourself too. Right. As you said, like, you don't need people to say, oh, that was a great thing that you did. You need people to actually go ahead and do that.
That's right.
And then the mentorship, like, I think that's huge. You mentioned that a number of times, and I think that's something that's so critical, but it's often overlooked.
That's right.
Yeah, so definitely huge. Now, putting you on the spot, are there any resources for mentorship that, our listeners and viewers might be able to access?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of books. There's a lot of books that people can read to help with mentorship in various areas in terms of becoming a leader and being a strong leader. For educators, of course, there's a ton of books that are available. I particularly like the Culturally Responsive Teaching and The Brain, which is a really, really great resource. But there's so many texts out there. So I think training. I think there's a lot of professional development that's available in the community and through a variety of organizations. I think you can connect with community organizations and groups that are willing to work with you, mentor you. Those would be my advice. Those would be the things I would suggest in terms of resources. So connecting with community organizations, having some type of training, learning, reading, those are all things I think that are helpful.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, those are really good resources, because I think like this idea is so great, but there's so many different avenues that people can take that it's sometimes hard to figure out, okay, what should I actually do?
That's it.
So that's huge.
There are a lot of people who have already made it. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just have to learn from them and then put our own spin on it. That's what, I think a lot of times we're too busy trying to do it ourselves and reinvent. We don't have to do it because there's other people who have achieved success. So let's learn from them and figure out what they did to achieve success. And then, of course, as I said, we can put our own spin on it.
And then you can build on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So now one of my favorite questions that we ask everybody.
Yes.
If you could go back in time and talk to your 16-year-old self, what advice would you give her?
What advice would I give? So I'm thinking back to 16. I attended a high school that was predominantly one demographic that didn't look like me. It was a very challenging experience because I was often the only Black student in the class. I did experience racism, but I was a very strong leader, and I persevered. And so I think I would just say to my 16-year-old self, keep going. You've got this, girl. Like, just keep going. You're doing well, and you will achieve success. And I think I would just encourage myself, because I think I was doing what I needed to do at that age. Yeah.
Well, that's good. That's good that you already were pretty confident, but like just the idea that, no, just keep going. Keep pushing through it.
Yep.
Just do what you're doing.
Anyone that told me I couldn't, I saw that, and I say this to students all the time, I saw that as a challenge. If you tell me I can't, I will show you I can. And and some people, when they hear things, when they hear the negative and they're put down, they become sad and they say, well, I can't do it. And they listen to that negativity. I refuse to do that. If you ever tell me I cannot do something, watch me. Watch me do it. I became the president of the student council. I was a valedictorian. I got the principal's award. I showed them. Nice. Don't tell me I can't.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something, especially at 16. It's like, I feel like at 16 you're always being told, oh, you can't do this, or you're not responsible enough, or like, look how terrible you are.
Particularly when you're racialized.
When you're racialized, yeah, exactly, because you're dealing with that, and you're dealing with the fact that you're younger and you're not as developed, and so people always look down on you. Sometimes I think all we needed to hear is, hey, you got this.
100%.
You're doing a good job.
100%.
Keep doing it.
That's it. That's all a lot of our young people
on
need. That's all they need. They just need one person, one caring adult to say, you can do this and you will achieve success. And I promised myself when I became an educator that I would be the educator in the building that always did that for students. And today I'm receiving phone calls from students that nobody believed in, telling me, Miss, I'm in medical school. Miss, I'm in law school. Miss, I have a family. I want you to connect with me. Miss, I'm building houses. And they're making it because one person said, yes, you can. You can do this.
Yeah, that's great. The fact that you actually you made that promise, and now you're living that promise.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today.
My pleasure.
It was a really good conversation, and I think there's just so many nuggets of information that I think everyone can benefit from.
Awesome. I really appreciate you having me, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.